Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week, we're dancing our cares away as we head back down to Fraggle Rock. That's right, it's January 1984, and it's time to dive into Season 2 of Fraggle Rock with the first 4 episodes entitled Wembley's Egg, Boober Rock, The Trash Heap Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and Red's Sea Monster. We took a week off, where you may have noticed in your podcast feed that we missed a week. And if I sound any different or lower energy this week, I got COVID, so sorry.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I was kind of afraid that maybe my voice would change forever, and I would just be a completely different podcast host here with Sam.
You sound pretty normal to me.
That's good. I wasn't sure, honestly. I don't know what my own voice sounds like enough to know if it's changed.
I think we do this early enough in the morning that we're probably both a little croaky to begin with anyway. You know?
It felt like when I had my tonsils out like years ago, not as many years as you might think, like 4 years ago. And when they were doing that, they were like, yeah, this should help, because I kept having strep throat issues every year. And they were like, this should help with that. Your voice might be different afterwards, though. And I was like,
what the hell?
How different? I couldn't picture what that meant. According to reviews from my wife, I don't have a different voice before and after the tonsillectomy, but it is an interesting thing to be presented with of, hey, you might wake up with a different voice tomorrow.
Well, how you doing now? Are you doing better?
Yeah, I mean, better is relative.
You're
yes,
sitting down, which is a long
I'm sitting down while recording, which is what I never do, because if I was standing up while recording this, this would be a 5-minute podcast because I would be so sleepy. I'm in that state near the end where everything makes me really tired. Like I was folding laundry and like had to stop halfway through the load to be like, I gotta rest.
Just like Boober.
No, he would get it done in one go.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I wanted to throw that out there. One, because we did miss a week of episodes. Wanted to make it clear why that happened. But also
Thanks,
to say
Matt.
that if I sound a little bit lower energy when talking about Fraggles, it is not necessarily the fault of the Fraggles. And I'm sure there will be some gross coughing and sneezing noises that Sam will have to cut out of this episode. Well, now that we are diving into a brand new year here, Sam, it's 1984. It's season 2 of Fraggle Rock. How you feeling? Are you feeling optimistic about more Fraggle Rock?
I think so. I think one thing I noticed when I was writing my episode summaries is that it kind of feels like they don't have as strong a moral anymore. Like it's a little bit harder to pick it out of like what the overarching moral of each episode is, which I don't think is good or bad. And I kind of don't blame them, because there's really like only so many times you can be like, be nice to your friends, which is kind of like the overarching moral of the whole show, I suppose. But yeah, I think it feels okay. It doesn't feel that much different than it did before. I'm very interested to see what they do with the trash heap, because the trash heap doesn't live here anymore episode ended on like a really weird note. It's like, what are they trying to tell us is going to happen now? But yeah, it feels just like it always did to me. How about you?
Yeah, I agree that the morals feel a little bit more buried, but I think we had a problem with that when we first started watching the second half of the first season. Where we were like, uh-oh, they're clearly going in a new direction, and we're not sure we like it. And I think by the end of season 1 and now at the beginning of season 2, they have found that new middle ground where they don't do the like clear, pointed out morals like they did in the first 12 episodes, but it doesn't seem as randomly tossed together as those first few second half of season 1 episodes did, where you can feel that there's a moral still in there, but it isn't as like beating you
Yeah.
over the head with it.
Or they're all about like navigating interpersonal relationships.
Right. Yeah. And it's just more about like, this one isn't, oh, Wembley needs to make decisions. It's just, oh, they had a complicated conversation around Wembley's feelings this episode. Take from that what you will. The one thing I was surprised by at the very beginning, I thought they might film a new intro with new Gobo.
I thought so too. We're just going to have vestless Gobo in the intro forever?
Yeah, I feel like by, season 5, kids are watching Fraggle Rock being like, who's that guy? That guy doesn't look like my Gobo.
Kids notoriously can't tell the difference between people who have vests on and don't have vests on.
I have read that study. All right, well then, Sam, before we talk too much about the Fraggle Rock that we're here to talk about today, tell the people what we watched this week.
First up, we watched Wembley's Egg, which aired January 2nd, 1984.
Happy
Wembley is
Easter!
Happy
It's an egg
Easter?
episode. It's Easter today while we're recording this, and it's an egg episode.
It's Easter today?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, it is.
Did your mom used to make you an Easter basket
Hell yeah.
with presents in it?
Yeah, and candy
My
and
mom
all that
used to give
stuff.
me a video game for Easter.
What?
Yeah,
I never got anything that cool for Easter.
it was great. I think my mom just really likes to make holidays be special and all of them be Christmas. So
I remember as a kid, the Easter Bunny was one of the things where I happened to go down to the basement and I found a bunch of Easter basket supplies. Pre-Easter.
the Easter Bunny one isn't as shaking as the Santa Claus one. You're just like,
For some reason, I guess, yeah.
I guess it adds up that there's not a giant. Maybe it's almost more of a relief that there's not a giant bunny hopping around giving you presents.
Yeah, I'm cool with an old guy who wants to give me presents, but
Yeah.
a giant rabbit isn't something that exists in this world normally. Old men with beards exists.
Some kind of a religious affiliation, which I suppose Santa does too, but just how does this rabbit relate to Jesus? Not really clear. Better for him to just not exist, I think. Anyway, I remember getting Sonic Adventure 2 for Easter. And that was
Ooh.
great.
Yeah, I don't remember any specific Easter gifts because it was just a lot of it was more like a stocking stuffer situation as opposed to actual presents. But yes, sorry to interrupt your Wembley's egg
Anyway,
description.
Happy Easter, everybody. Oh, it's an egg. That's why you said that.
I didn't just say that because.
Thought you just remembered it was Easter. Wembley is feeling blue because all of his friends have a purpose in life except him. Red's got her swimming, Moki's got poetry, etc. And Wembley is just kind of there. Up in Gorg Garden, Junior spots an egg in a nest and decides to get it for Pa Gorg's supper. But in his attempt to grab it, the egg ends up falling down the well straight into the pool in the middle of Fraggle Rock. All the Fraggles freak out and don't know what it is except for Wembley, who has noticed the birds up in the Gorg Garden sitting on these things before until little baby birds come out. He tells this to the other Fraggles, who laugh and tell him he's nuts. A lot of laughing and telling people they're nuts in these episodes. They all want to get rid of it, but Wembley knows he's right, so he sits on it to protect it until the baby comes out. After not too long, the baby bird pops out, and all of Wembley's friends admit that he was right. But now there's a big crazy baby bird running around breaking stuff and causing a ruckus. Wembley tries to take care of it and feed it and teach it to fly, but it eventually becomes clear to Wembley and the baby that, as much as they love each other, the baby bird does not belong in Fraggle Rock. The Fraggles help Wembley build a flying machine out of the birthday balloons from Doc's shop, and they float the bird back to its grieving parents, who teach it how to fly, and then they all attack Junior Gorg together. The moral? I don't really know. Stick to your moral compass, I guess. Just believe in yourself, and also don't try to raise wild animals. Up in outer space, it's Sprocket's birthday, but Doc is too busy reading a book about being perceptive to notice that it is Sprocket's birthday. The deranged thing about this storyline is that it seems like Sprocket had to decorate the workshop for his own birthday, because Doc genuinely has forgotten it's his birthday, except also Doc got Sprocket a present, so I don't really know what Doc's malfunction is in this particular episode.
I mean, I think it's that he doesn't pay enough attention.
But
That's
did
why he needed
Sprocket
the
have to
book.
decorate for his own birthday? Did he make himself a banner that says Happy Birthday Sprocket? Because that's so sad if he did.
Well, I think it's either that or Doc did decorate and buy the present and then just completely forgot.
And put up the banner?
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe Ned Shinmulfinny made the banner for him.
He's the neighbor who actually cares about Sprocket.
Yeah. Next up, Boober Rock, airing January 9th, 1984. The Fraggles are a rowdy bunch, all except for Boober, who is getting a little bit sick of all the constant commotion. When Red's horseplate messes up his laundry and breaks his bleach nut, Boober decides that he's had enough and decides to move to the Caves of Boredom, which Gobo recently found on one of Uncle Matt's old maps. When he gets there, the Caves of Boredom are actually pretty cool and beautiful and filled with all these big, interesting flowers that release a pleasant-smelling purple mist. Boober is content with his new solitary life, but his friends are worried and they keep going to visit him. While visiting, they start to notice that Boober doesn't really seem to care about them or even really remember them that much anymore. So Wembley decides to hang out for a while, and the other Fraggles go to see the storyteller, who tells them that the Caves of Boredom used to be called the Caves of Forgetfulness, and that Fraggles who've gone there have never come back. Back in the cave, Wembley and Boober start to realize that their minds are slipping away and they try to keep each other grounded, but what they don't realize is that the beautiful cave flowers are starting to wrap their tendrils around them and pull them towards their flower mouths. The other Fraggles show up to find Boober and Wembley about to be eaten, but they also fall victim to the flowers for getting missed. In all the commotion, Boober's bleach nut gets broken again, and the powerful smell brings Boober back to his senses. He gives all the other Fraggles a whiff of the bleach nut, and they escape the flower's clutches, and Boober decides that being totally alone isn't all it's cracked up to be, and heads back to Fraggle Rock with everybody else. The moral: I guess being totally alone isn't all it's cracked up to be, and also don't go off into strange parts of the wilderness alone, because you might die. Up in outer space, Doc and Sprocket are crowding each other in their small workshop, so they do the classic sitcom trope of dividing the room in two and each staying on their own side. This proves impractical, of course, and they decide it's better to just live with each other than to live apart. I feel like if we were roommates, we would have divided the room in half at some point.
Yeah, probably. I'm trying to think of what scrapes and scraps we would get into that would make us decide, you know what? You stay on your side, I'll stay on mine. It would probably be, I don't know, a cleanliness thing. I don't feel like you're that dirty or gross, are you?
No way. I'm very clean. I live with somebody who's not particularly clean is more my problem. So maybe we'd be okay.
Maybe we'd be fine. Maybe that's the dream team right there.
You know what I love to do? Sweep. I love sweeping the floor.
I like dusting and vacuuming, Sam.
Okay, I like this. This sounds great. Do you close cabinets when you're done with them?
Yes.
That's important. That's important to me. Next, we watch The Trash Heap Doesn't Live Here Anymore, originally airing January 16th, 1984. Ma Gorg decides that she wants a gazebo, and the perfect place for it would be over where the big smelly heap of trash, aka Marjorie, the trash heap is, so she tasks Pa and Junior with getting rid of it. Philo and Gunge overhear this, panic, and tell Marjorie, who's a little bit more chill about it, and tells them to just go find some Fraggles to help. Philo and Gunge find Wembley and Gobo, who are, unbeknownst to them, among the worst Fraggles that they could have asked for help, and that bring them to Marjorie. But it's too late. She's already been dug up and dumped somewhere else. They find her and realize that not only is she physically all jumbled up, but her brain seems to be different now too, and she's rapidly shifting through different personalities and accents. Even worse, they overhear the Gorgs say that they're going to dump the trash heap in the river soon. The Fraggles decide that they need to hide the trash heap, but aren't really sure how to do that because they're so tiny. Pa and Junior load the trash heap into a wheelbarrow, but decide that they have time for a quick nap before they dump it in the river. Wembley, hit by some kind of divine inspiration, I honestly don't really remember how he comes up with this idea, climbs onto the sleeping Junior's head and gets him to sleepwalk, and somehow controls the Gorg's body, getting him to push the wheelbarrow to the other side of the Gorg garden and dump it in a little secluded spot that the Gorgs never go to. Marjorie says she's mostly back to normal now, though she keeps oscillating rapidly between accents and generally seems kind of a little messed up. The moral of this one? I don't really know. Maybe it's people change, except Marjorie was sort of forced to change, so that doesn't feel totally applicable. This is when I started to think maybe the show doesn't have morals anymore.
Yeah, I'm sitting here racking my brain trying to remember what the moral might have been.
Well, so up in outer space, Doc and Sprocket watch an ice cube melt because Sprocket asked for more food, and that just sends Doc off on a tangent. So I think it is change.
Right. Things change, and you kind of have to be okay with that. So, the trash heap changes Wembley and Boober, and you have to accept that.
That's so motivated by forces outside of their control, which I guess it's like a natural disaster, I suppose.
But it's not like the trash heap decided to move and they weren't
Right.
okay with it. And the trash heap's like, well, boys, sometimes things change and I got to get
Yeah.
out of here.
That might have
Like-
been better if the trash heap was like, it's time for me to get turned over, and now I'm gonna be somebody different, and that's okay.
Mm.
I'm still gonna give you good advice, but I'll just be a little different.
And maybe there's a part like this, but I don't think there is. If the trash heap was like, oh, this happens all the time. Like, this happens every 6 months. I get turned over. I'm a new trash heap. It's fine. Like,
Well,
if it was just like a regular
she-
part.
She is like, she does know what'll happen if she gets moved, and
Right.
she tells them that it's okay. But I don't think she's not panicked about it, but there's no indication that this is something that happens very often.
Right.
Anyway, finally, we watched Red's Sea Monster, which aired January 23rd, 1984. Red is always pushing herself to perform new feats of Fraggle excellence, but she doesn't feel like anybody gives her the proper amount of respect. And everyone seems to like stupid old Gobo better, too. These feelings all boil over one day when Red tries to set a new underwater breath-holding record, but everybody's too busy messing around and laughing at Gobo's jokes to care. Red storms off to be alone, and grapple, she's kind of self-aware in this one, grapple with the question of why she cares so much what other people think of her. In her wandering, as so often happens in Fraggle Rock, she finds something weird. A sea monster emerges from a pool of water in front of her. Red runs off and brings a bunch of Fraggles back to show them the sea monster, but after waiting around for a long time, it never comes back, and Gobo makes fun of her again, and everybody leaves. Of course, immediately after everybody leaves, the monster pops back up and has a little chat with Red about how he's the last of his kind. Red goes back to her friends to beg them to come and see, but nobody will, except nasty little Marlin Fraggle. Marlin and Red go back to the pond, and Gobo pulls a prank on them by pretending to be a sea monster to try to get Red to give up this like lie that he thinks she's telling. So Red runs off to yell at Gobo, and when she comes back, Marlin has set up an elaborate trap for the sea monster. Marlin is lonely and wants to catch the sea monster, so that everybody will have to be nice to him and treat him with respect if they want to see the monster for themselves. Red realizes that she's sort of exploiting the monster in the same way, even if she's not being a total psycho about it, and tells Marlin that she made the whole thing up. Marlin ends up leaving in a huff, and the sea monster comes out again and says that they can keep being friends, but that he needs to be a secret to all the other Fraggles. Red agrees, swallows her pride, and tells everyone that she made the story up, but her friends are just happy that she's back and not being really weird anymore. The moral, sometimes you have to sacrifice the things you hold most dear to protect the things you love. That one had a moral.
And what's nice about that is that I like that it is a resolution for Red that doesn't really need to be a resolution for anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, it happens, we see it, Red knows it, the monster knows it, but nobody else is really involved in that resolution.
Uh-huh. It's like all self-motivated and something that she learns about herself. And they don't even see the monster in the end, which is so, it's like so bittersweet that she is really just like, I gotta take one for the team. Gotta help this endangered species. Up in outer space, Doc is drying out some stinky seaweed that he found on the beach inside his workshop for some reason, because he's just a weird guy. Elsewhere, in January of 1984, Apple launches the Microsoft Personal Computer with that big Super Bowl ad that you're probably familiar with, where like a lady's got a sledgehammer and she throws it through like a dystopian dictator man on the television. And that was sort of it, because it was January and nothing happens in January.
There were some things going on in the world of the Muppets in January of 1984, though. January 1984, Jim wrote in his Red Book, Builders redoing Sherry apartment. This is the apartment that we've talked about a few times here. This was Jim's bachelor pad, his Don Draper Manhattan apartment. And apparently Jim was just very into decorating this place and making it his ultimate bachelor pad here, because each wall and floor finish was carefully chosen by Jim. Most of the furniture was custom made or antique and featured carved or cast animals as decoration. He purchased a bunch of antiques in London and an exquisite 18th century jade lion in Singapore.
Is exquisite your words?
No, that's the
Okay.
Jim's Red Book description of this.
Okay.
And the apartment was featured in the February 1987 issue of Metropolitan Home magazine, which I'm going to try and find on eBay because I want to see pictures.
This man is terminally divorced now. He is going through...
But yet he
midlife
never
crisis big
actually
time.
will be.
No. He's just living out the life of a divorced man.
Then on January 9th, 1984, Jim wrote in his journal, Terry Jones begins screenplay of Labyrinth. So this is Terry Jones from Monty Python, because Jim was a fan of Monty Python, and so he reached out to Terry Jones to write the script. As it turns out, Terry Jones was also thinking about doing something with Jim. He was planning on doing Eric the Viking, which he did eventually end up doing. But Terry Jones said, quote, I rang up his office and they said, that's funny. He was trying to reach you yesterday. Apparently Jim's daughter Lisa had just read the children's book of Eric the Viking, which Terry Jones also wrote, and suggested to Jim, hey, you should use Terry Jones as a screenwriter for Labyrinth, based on this Eric the Viking book he did. So Jim and Terry Jones met in London, and Terry Jones signed on to do the screenplay for Labyrinth. And in a follow-up note, Jim wrote to Terry Jones, quote, I'm extremely pleased that you will be joining us on this project. Eric the Viking was so full of lively adventures and wonderful concepts. Your contributions to Labyrinth will surely make this script jump to life. As far as I can tell, Jim did not go on to help out with Eric the Viking at all. So when Terry Jones got around to making Eric the Viking, I don't think Jim helped him at all with that.
Oh, no.
So I'm not sure what happened there. It seemed like maybe they were both like, hey, we each have a cool idea that we can help each other on. It was like, yeah, totally. You write that Labyrinth script yet?
Yeah. Well, he was all the way over in America. He probably couldn't even get to him. Wow. I've never heard of Eric the Viking before.
It got added to my list of potential birthday episode movies for us. It has a slight now Muppet connection in that it was brought up on this podcast.
Yeah. And poor Terry probably thought it was going to have a much stronger Muppet connection.
Yeah. Maybe there's like weird creatures in it that he was like, man, that would have been great if it was a Jim Henson creation, but then it's just a sock.
It does look like there's a sea monster in it.
You could have just gotten the one from Fraggle Rock. Then on January 14th, 1984, Jim appeared on The Saturday Show. This was a morning kids show that aired on ITV from 1982 to 1986 in the UK. Jim and Kermit and Sprocket appeared on The Saturday Show to promote Fraggle Rock in the UK. Jim was interviewed with Kermit as well as separately, and they showed a really weird random selection of clips. They showed clips from the Muppet movie, the Muppet Show Kenny Rogers episode, The Dark Crystal, and Fraggle Rock. Oh, and also of Muppets and Men. So behind the scenes footage. And this apparently was on YouTube not that long ago. It is not there anymore, so that's why we didn't watch it this week. But it might appear at some point. We'll talk about it in a catch-up episode. But Jim also showed the kids how to use the Waldo, the digital puppetry thing, to show them how they operate doozers. And then Kermit also participated in a puppet show with a kid from the audience. It's apparently very cute.
That's cool.
Yeah. So hopefully we
so
get
the
to watch that
Waldo
one
is
day.
for doozers too. I thought the Waldo was just for the Gorg faces, but is that
It's
even
for
a
any
Waldo?
remote puppet.
Okay.
So any puppet they have to control the mouth remotely, they use some sort of Waldo to control.
That seems like a lot of work for the doozer who just has open and close basically.
I think it's more for the puppeteer who is in the character, trying to be the character as much as possible. And interestingly, this past week on the Tested YouTube channel, Adam Savage's YouTube channel, they just posted a video where he went to the Jim Henson Company and Brian Henson showed him the latest version of the Waldo and how involved it is now. Because you watch Fraggle Rock behind the scenes things and it's a foam little mouth on a wood plank that they're using for a lot of this stuff. And now it's this weird saw contraption that you stick your hand through and there's a joystick and it's very complicated. But it allows for more...
Saw like the movie Saw.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I was picturing a saw. I was like, how?
Like the movie Saw. It looks like something that you put your hand in and it won't come back out.
Right.
But this is mostly used for digital puppetry now, the one that they use. For Sid the Science Kid and various characters like that are computerized but are still puppeteered like a puppet. And the last thing from Jim's Red Book in January of 1984, on January 29th, Jim wrote, Cheryl and I do Olympic special in L.A. So the mascot for the 1984 Summer Olympic Games in L.A. was Sam the Olympic Eagle.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so the Muppets were invited to participate in a TV special commemorating the games. An Olympic gala aired on ABC to launch the games in July, and so we'll watch that later on. We're only in January right now, but we will watch some clips from that. And apparently, Jim provided an autographed Miss Piggy glove and a letter of authenticity to the U.S. Olympic Committee for a fundraising auction. I am seeing a number of auctioned off Miss Piggy signed gloves. Some that you can't even read the autograph, but it's $5,000 if you want it, apparently.
This just seems like something they had a bunch of It
does seem like it was a go-to
auction
thing.
item.
Because, there's even one that sold previously that has a certificate of authenticity with it. That is from 1981, so it was before this one even. Well, any Muppet collectors out there, if you don't have one of those, add that to your bucket list. But getting into today's episodes, we have the January 2nd, 1984 episode, the first episode of Season 2, Wembley's Egg, written by Laura Phillips and directed by George Bloomfield. Muppet Wiki has a few interesting notes about this episode. One, the Fraggles have no clue what an egg is, despite the fact that the storyteller Fraggle mentions a Fraggle hatching in a story she told in an earlier episode. And also in Capture the Moon, Uncle Traveling Matt said that he wanted to watch a rainbow hatch from a chicken's egg. All the Fraggles knew what that meant.
I still feel like Fraggles come out of eggs. I don't feel like this is proof that they don't.
They just don't know it. They still are confused about where they come from.
Yeah, it is a bit, it's weird. But if Uncle Matt knows what eggs are, then everybody's got to know what eggs are.
I'm sure there'll be a point in the future where he does not know what eggs are again.
That's true.
There was also apparently a short production break before Season 2 began. The last episode of the first season was recorded in May of 1983, and this episode was recorded in September of 1983. So not a very long break for the Fraggle Rock crew there. And the only major production or cast change that was made was that Cheryl Wagner replaced Myra Freed as the voice and face of Ma Gorg.
I didn't notice too much of a change, did you?
I think she sounds different, and also the Gorgs are a little different.
They're a little weird, especially in one. I don't remember which one, but they talk medievally a lot.
Yes, there's lots of forsooth, my dear, kind of things going on, and I'm like, what is this all about?
Are you guys engaging in some light role play, or is this just how you are now?
I mean, as Sujith Verghese told us, that would not be an uncommon thing to slip into a script.
A sensual pair, yes.
Well, at the beginning of this season, it felt a little bit like Scrubs Season 9, which sounds like a bad thing, but only in the way that it seems like everyone's jobs now involves teaching others their job.
Oh.
Like, Red was teaching swimming lessons as opposed to just agitating the pond with her swimming.
That's true.
Gobo is teaching lessons on traveling and talking about the caves to younger Fraggles, and Moki is sharing her poetry with kids. It just felt like their jobs weren't just going off and doing the thing, that it was also like they were supposed to share their work with people around them.
I wonder if they thought it was important to frame them as not being children or something, like to really
Maybe
verify that they weren't little kids.
Well, and it also, I'm curious to see if we will come back around to Moki's job being the radishes.
Uh-huh.
Because her job was to go pick the radishes, and in this, it seems like, her purpose is poetry and arts.
Yeah, I think they will, because I feel like they've referenced it so many times, and Wembley is still the siren. Which
is still shocking. Every time that comes up, I'm like, wow, okay, good job. You're still remembering that. But Boober has a new trait, and that is cooking, which is a big part of Boober's personality from now on. But previously, he was all laundry all the time.
What a handy guy. How could anybody cast dispersions on Boober? He's keeping them all alive.
Yeah, I think he needs to brag a little more, actually. I think he needs to be a little bit more front and center of like, hey, you fools, I'm keeping you all alive and hygienic. You're welcome. What does Gobo bring to the table? Oh, he leaves and travels around caves that none of us are ever going to go to anyways? Big deal.
Yeah, the one where he left, where Boober leaves, could have had an element where they all started to stink really bad.
It's like, I'm starving. Who makes the food around here?
And I'm pitted out. Ugh, come on.
I bet Fraggles smell terrible. You imagine that matted fur, and they're all just swimming in the same pond every day?
Oh, yeah, they're wet. They seem like they're wet.
They're going to smell like wet dog.
You're right.
all the time.
It's a stinking cave.
But Wembley at this point is so bored he wants to cry, which is, poor Wembley. That's sort of the trend of the entire series is poor Wembley. But I feel this was an episode where I sort of related to Wembley a little bit. Not as deep as the like everyone has a purpose and I don't, but in the like not being able to describe how he feels when he's bored and like agitated, and him just saying that like I feel weird. It's like being lonely, but you don't want to talk to anybody. It's like you're hungry, but you don't want to eat. And I often describe this to my wife when I'm feeling this way because like I'll be pacing the house and she's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, I'm in this weird liminal space where I want to do everything right now, and I also want to sit and play 6 hours of video games. And it's just like my brain can't decide what I want to do in that moment, or it can't decide what is the best choice in that moment. And so I just kind of like wemble and walk around.
I feel like the best choice in those moments is to play the video games.
That's what unfortunately what ends up happening is I do end up playing the video game. And then after 2 hours of playing video games, I'm like, would have been nice if I would have been a little productive.
No, I disagree. I think you got to play the video games, and then because that's your brain. I feel like sometimes that's my brain telling me that I gotta relax, and then my other side of my brain being like, but I have to try to squeeze out some substandard garbage to feel productive. But anyway, yeah, I also feel like everybody goes through. I definitely go through phases where I'm like, I'm doing great, and then phases where I'm like, oh God, how have I not seen how not great I've been doing? Or like how have I not seen that like everything I'm doing is pointless? And then it's like, you got to just like look for meaning. It's always a process, of finding what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and I think asking yourself that question of like, is what I'm doing right now, do I see it as my purpose? Or do I see it as like killing time or just what I feel like I have to do? And yeah, it can be hard when you see people around you who are doing things that it's like, oh, that's your dream job since you were 5 and you're doing it. And like, what is that? That must feel great.
People probably look at us being like, wow, they got a Muppet podcast. Amazing. And you're right. It's really hard to start a Muppet podcast. You shouldn't even try. We kind of got it
Please
on
don't
lock.
try. You can do a Muppet podcast. Just don't take our format, I guess, is my gatekeepy form of that.
That'd be hilarious if somebody else started doing it. And then they got like, if they got so popular and they started doing it, I don't even know what I would do. That would be like the worst thing that could ever happen to me, I think.
I like that there's no world in which they didn't immediately become more popular than us in your head. Like
I
you
don't
immediately
think
were like,
there is.
if somebody else started a podcast like ours, they would become the most popular podcast in the world.
I just know that that's how it works for me in all things. So.
I mean, the problem is, Sam, I don't think anyone else thinks this is a good idea.
Or if they do, they forecast what it would mean for their life.
Or they've heard us talk about it now, and they're like, oh, wait, how long is it going to take until they're talking about Elmo-Palooza? Never mind.
And then they have to talk about Elmo-Palooza? Okay.
There was somebody posted in our Discord recently in one of the early episodes of this podcast. You say something like, in a couple years when we're talking about the new Muppet Babies series, I'm not prepared for that. So you were thinking when we started that
you also were like that will be like it'll be like 2 years from now. You said that you agreed with me.
I don't remember exactly the conversation, but at some point we were talking about the potential for us to be talking about the 2018 Muppet Babies series by now. And we joked of like, well, if one of us has a kid, it'll make it easier. Well, two things. Neither one of us have a kid. And we are in 1984.
Oh, yeah. So if we had a kid, by the time we got there, our kid would be too old to watch Muppet Babies. Anyway.
I think when we were talking about this podcast, it was like a 30-episode podcast in our heads.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, so here's all the movies. We'll talk about some TV shows, all the Muppet stuff. That'll take about 50 episodes, maybe.
Yeah.
Now
I could
here we
sue you
are.
for damages or something, probably, for misleading me.
Here we are almost 100
Because you did make me
episodes
sign
later.
all those contracts.
I did. You didn't even read them.
Well, anyway, Wembley finds an egg.
Yeah, which is, super convenient. that Junior's being shitty and stealing eggs from birds.
He is. I kind of assumed that they were vegans because they don't like to harm living things, but I guess they're not.
Well, they also sometimes want to kill Fraggles. So
They want to smash them.
Yeah, I feel like there's times where Junior sits and thinks about what Boober might taste like.
It would be hard not to.
Yeah.
Have you ever read Horton Hatches an Egg?
No, I don't think so. Is it this?
The brutal, honest truth is that this episode is exactly Horton Hatches an Egg by Dr. Seuss.
Oh.
Because he finds an egg that no one's sitting on. And he's like, I got to sit on this. And everybody's like, why are you sitting on that? You're an elephant. You're not supposed to do that. It's not going to even work. And then a elephant bird hatches out. And he's like, okay, here we go. I was right. And everybody's like, you're right, Horton. We apologize. Same thing.
Well, I don't think we can say they stole that one from the Muppets because that came out like 25 years earlier.
I think for the first time ever, the Muppets stole something from somebody else.
That came out like 44 years earlier.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was a big book in my childhood reading rotation. Loved that one.
I only knew about Horton Here and Who's. I didn't realize he had gone on to more adventures.
I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. That's his motto.
Well, that's a good way to get a date, I guess.
Why?
That's a good like, Tinder bio.
The elephant part's a little confusing.
Well, not if you want to date other elephants. I meant for Horton, not for like us.
Okay.
Not for humans.
Okay.
I meant that's like if Horton wants to get a date, that'd be a good Tinder bio.
Thinking about all their Tinders now, a lot of them would be nasty. Like the Cat in the Hat and the Grinch's Tinders would be disgusting.
Cat in the Hatch is like, you got room for thing 1 and thing 2? I'm bringing friends. And Grinch, oh yeah, Grinch is not gonna
Grinch
be a
would
good
hanging
date.
Dong, absolutely. I'm just gonna be up front with you. Here's my dick.
Must love dogs and hate everything else. Well, speaking of sweet, sweet things, we have a sweet, sweet song from Wembley here, where he's singing a nice song to the baby in the egg called Sleep by the Light of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
And a very cute bird puppet emerges from the egg.
Muppet bird. Muppets nails birds. That's one of the things they excel at.
Yeah, it comes out and immediately thinks Wembley is its mommy.
I mean, that's a scientific fact that's true.
Yeah. Sam has a science podcast.
I've made multiple episodes of the thing about how you can trick baby birds into thinking all kinds of crazy stuff with their moms, like concepts and colors. You can really fuck them up.
This bird, though, goes on an absolute mayhem run through Fraggle Rock, destroys Wembley's ladder that he uses to climb up into his bed, destroys Boober's kitchen, causes chaos. As you know, if you took a bird and put it in an underground cavern that was too small for it, probably would do. Yeah. I did like, though, that the moment Gobo sees the bird, he does believe Wembley's story.
Yeah.
He didn't say, like, where'd that come from? It couldn't have been from the egg.
Wembley could have demanded a bit more of an apology, I think, but that is nice.
There was a lot going on. He didn't really have a lot of time to be like, you know what, everyone, pause. Gobo, I would really like you to apologize right now.
Yeah.
Clearly there's a bird here. I was right. I need you to say it.
See, you would do it, right?
Like, no, don't worry. I know it's like eating your bed or whatever it's doing right now, but we have to acknowledge this moment. But he is a bad friend because he is meant to be watching this bird while I believe Wembley goes to get food for the bird. And Gobo decides, this is hard. I'm going to go get the postcard. And of course, this bird was just destroying everything. So what do you think's going to happen when you leave for 2 minutes here, Gobo? And we have a brief aside to learn about Uncle Traveling Matt's adventures in an airplane. Uncle Traveling Matt, much like Rolf in the Rocky Mountain Holiday, actually does get into an airplane. And we see him flying in what is maybe the sketchiest looking plane takeoff I've ever seen.
It's real wobbly.
It's real wobbly, and it's like bouncing a lot up and down. And I'm like, were they doing this because they weren't actually going to take off with Dave Goelz in the back? Was the plan they just like, oh, they're just going to like hop down the runway and then stop at the end? I don't know, but it didn't look safe to me. I also don't know anything about flying a plane, though, so maybe that's exactly how they do it.
Yeah, we have a friend who knows how to fly planes now, though.
Yeah, I'll call her up and be like, hey, is this normal? I'll send you a clip from Fraggle Rock. Tell me if this is real. Junior is still being terrorized by the mama and papa bird. Right?
Seemingly for days, it seems like he's
Yes.
being terrorized.
It has been a whole day because Wembley slept on the egg overnight, and we saw the birds attacking Junior before that, and now they're still attacking. So I guess he didn't think to go inside and hide at all.
No.
He just stayed outside and was terrorized by these birds.
Ran around for 24 hours, getting pecked in the head by a bird.
Mm-hmm. And then, the Fraggles do the impressive thing of building a hot air balloon-like device to send this bird back up the well, which feels like...
They solved this problem real quick.
Well, it feels like something that maybe they should do for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, if they can create air travel, why not give that a go when they need to go talk to Marjorie or something?
And none of them ever seem to think that it's applicable to their situation, which I guess, I don't know, if you live in a cave your whole life, maybe you just never even think, I could fly too. But Wembley almost does. He doesn't get to fly, I don't think, though, does he?
No, because we have a Wizard of Oz situation where at the end, when Dorothy is supposed to go in the hot air balloon with the wizard, something goes awry and the wizard takes off without her. And much like that, we have here, Wembley was going to go, but Boober and everyone else sort of lets go. Well, everyone else lets go of the hot air balloon thing, and then Boober's holding on for dear life. And if he doesn't let go, he's going to float away, so he has to let go. And the bird floats away, back up conveniently right to the tree where its parents are. And thankfully now all the birds are happy.
I'm sorry, I'm watching that clip from Wizard of Oz because I think it's really funny when he says, "I can't come back. I don't know how it works."
It's like I can go up, and that's it. I think I don't really know. Just to be fair, I also don't really know how hot air balloons work at all. So I'd be right there with him. I think this is it now.
They say that on Mystery Science Theater a lot, and it makes me laugh really hard every time. And then I watch that clip. He's just like, "I can't come back. I don't know how it works." Oh, man. Anyway, the birds are all family again. He learns to fly really quick, too. So I think Wembley did a good job overall raising this bird.
But he does look very sad. You see Wembley's face as the bird flies up and reunites with his family, and everyone else is super stoked. This plan worked, but they cut to Wembley's face, and you just see him kind of go, He's kind of
Even the baby bird doesn't really have a thank you for raising me moment.
I mean, that bird's a day old.
I guess so. He's an ingrate, though.
But overall, I thought, we talked, I think you talked as much as that needs to be said about the Doc and Sprocket part of this, of Doc remembering Sprocket's birthday eventually.
It's just so weird.
But it's an okay episode. It didn't wow me, but I didn't find myself disliking it at all.
I wrote, I have basically the same note. It's just this was a perfectly serviceable episode. I only gave it 2 stars because it's a ripoff of Horton Hatches an Egg. But if I didn't know about Horton Hatches an Egg, I think I would have been like, oh, cool, I like this one. But didn't love it, but it didn't bother me or anything. The songs are nice in it, though.
Yeah. And I think anytime we get a Wembley-focused story, I'm going to like that, especially when he's just being a sweetie. But next up, we have the January 9th, 1984 episode, Fraggle Rock, written by P.B. Nickel and directed by Norman Campbell. Notable about this episode, I'm up at Wiki, the storyteller has been replaced. Previously, the storyteller was performed by Richard Hunt and is now performed by Terry Angus. And this is one of the very few times in Fraggle Rock that 2 puppeteers will play the same character.
Ma Gorg, the other one?
Yeah, I believe so. This episode starts off with Doc having his blueprints for an electric sponge. And that's what Doc and Sprocket are fighting about, is the space because his blueprints are in Sprocket's bed, and then Sprocket also uses his blueprints to clean something up or something. I don't know. There's a lot going on. And I wrote in my notes at the beginning, I'm expecting one of those lines drawn down the middle of the room sitcom episodes.
Oh, yeah.
And then
they
a
do
minute
a much
later,
more impractical thing where they just put a rope up right exactly at Doc trip on it level.
Yeah, which it ends up paying off. He uses it as a clothesline later on. But why was that rope there?
It looks like Sprocket has way less room than Doc does, too, in my opinion.
He's a dog.
He's half as big as Doc, so maybe that makes sense.
We do get to see that Boober is still into his laundry in this episode. It did not go away. But the Doozers have built Boober into his house. And have trapped him in there, which he just bursts through because Doozer sticks are quite fragile. But Moki is also annoying him with her poem, and Red is just singing loudly and obnoxiously.
She's teaching teaching other Fraggles to do something. She's teaching them how to scream.
Yes, and to sing the Fraggle Rock theme song.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
which is in canon. And we get the review that Fraggle Rock is just noisiness.
Yep.
Which feels like something maybe somebody like a reviewer said in a newspaper, and the writers were like, well, we're putting that in the show. But yeah, Red is super obnoxious, which I get is the point, is that everyone is supposed to be annoying Boober, but Red seems to be purposefully trying to annoy people in this.
There's multiple instances of her taking it too far, especially
Yes.
with Boober, because this is the same thing she did in the courtroom episode where she spills ink all over, I think, his laundry.
Yeah. I mean, hell, she even runs in and is like, she sings, "Dance your pants away. Worries will be here to stay if you spend your day down at Boober Rock."
Brutal.
Like, not only did
cut
she
him down
sing
to size.
the Fraggle Rock theme, she made up a parody to dunk on her friend.
They don't even wear pants either, so.
They danced him away. And yes, she also does break his bleach nut, which seems to be just like a seed.
Also pretty convenient.
Yeah, it seems to release bleach gas into the air because it suddenly becomes a toxic environment that all the Fraggles have to run from.
I think industrial laundry, I think, can be dangerous like that, you know? It's like dry cleaning. It's chemicals.
Yeah, this just felt more like a weapon that they could, like,
That's
if they
true.
wanted to use against, like, the Gorgs, they could just take a bunch of bleach nuts up there and just, like, start tossing them at the Gorgs, and they could take over that castle.
It's like something Link would shoot out of a slingshot in Zelda.
But this is when Boober only listens to half of Moki's poem, which is talking about wanting loneliness and your own quiet world apart. And he's like, hey, that sounds amazing. I'm going to move to the Cave of Boredom. I, in this moment, understand Boober. I also like that Wembley is like, oh, you're running away to be by yourself? I could come with you if you want.
Wembley does seem to be the one who annoys him the least of anybody, though.
But he is very aware that they would not be good, like, solo roommates. He's
Yeah,
like, I love
that's
you,
true.
Wembley. You're annoying as hell. I don't want to be alone with you.
Gobo lives with him too, right? Does he live with all three? Does he have?
No, just Gobo and Wembley live together in that one room.
Oh, I thought Boober had. Where's Boober's room? He's been in like a little curtained room before.
Boober seems to have a rock by himself off somewhere else. We haven't, I don't think we've learned the geography of exactly where Red, Moki, and Boober sleep, other than like Boober seems to have like a rock. And then Gobo and Wembley are in that main room with like their bunk beds.
Have we seen Moki and Red's room at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
Not
think
that
so
I
either.
remember, at least. But I do hope at some point we get sort of an odd couple episode with Boober and Wembley being forced together in some sort of situation. I think we've seen them do tasks together, but we haven't seen them in sort of like a getting on each other's nerves scenario.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was also, won over by the Caves of Boredom because I put in my notes, the Caves of Boredom had these really cool gas-releasing flowers.
Yeah.
Like, this place
That's
rules.
what I was like, wow, these flowers are beautiful. Then eventually they show them enough that I also wrote, these flowers are up to something.
Well, and there's those weird tendrils that appear, and you're like, uh-oh.
But they do a really good job of just like easing these flowers into being more sinister.
Yeah, the menace is there, but not, like, you could easily miss the first time the tendrils show up in the background.
Yeah. And if a monster smells nice, you're gonna like underestimate the monster, I feel like. You're gonna fall for its
It
trap.
can't be that evil. It smells great.
It smells so good.
And Boober sings his song, I'm Never Alone. And it reinstates my love of Boober. He imagines himself blissfully alone. He sees 5 of himself in a funhouse mirror. And then he's playing with 4 other Boobers around a maypole. And I feel like this is the healthier version of when Moki fell in love with herself. And she sang to the weird doll she made. She's like, hey, you're actually pretty hot. What if we were in love? That'd be funny. Whereas this Boober is just like, I'm the only person I need. I'm the best. Everyone else sucks.
I can make my own fun.
At this point in the episode, we realize that Doc has trapped Sprocket in the side without the door or his food, which Doc feels is warranted, apparently. Because when Sprocket is whining about food and being hungry, Doc's like, well, that sucks.
I guess you're gonna die over there.
But then Doc realizes that his blueprints are on Sprocket's side on his little workbench. And Sprocket, rightfully so, says, you're not coming over here. Even though Doc just tries to what if I just lean over, though, and grab my stuff? Boober has engineered a nice little gate to separate Boober Rock and Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
But at this point,
Like a gated community kind of like.
yeah, like
Yeah.
pay the toll to get in and out of this place kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this is when the first sign of trouble starts to rear its head, because Boober is talking to himself and has forgotten his friends' names already.
Damn.
It's been about 10 minutes, and he can't remember anyone's names that he was just living with. But then Moki wants to read Gobo her poem, and Gobo says, well, what if instead I read you Uncle Traveling Matt's postcard?
And she also seems to hate the postcards, right?
I think at this point, everyone hates the postcards except for Gobo because he's clearly using them as a device to get out of situations he doesn't want to be in. He doesn't want to watch a bird. Sorry, postcard time, I guess. And in this, it's like your friend wants to share a piece of their art with you, and you're like, but what if I read you a postcard from my uncle? It's like, okay, it seems like that could have waited. I could have read you my poem first. But Uncle Traveling Matt teaches us about subways, because people are like Fraggles and travel in caves underground. I do like seeing Muppets, I guess Muppet in this case, get to interact more with the real world, because that is not something we really get that often. Like, we get Big Bird off doing his things, but other than that...
We get the Muppets on talk shows every now and then, and the Muppet movie, and the Great Muppet Caper.
Right.
That is kind of it.
But in the movies, it feels obviously like everything is scripted and planned. And so like no one in that world is necessarily weirded out by the Muppets versus like you have this weird guy getting on the subway and everyone's just like kind of looking at him like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm just going to ignore this. And so I like that we have these recurring segments of just a Muppet out in the real world doing real people stuff.
He passes out, and all of the people come to his aid too, and they're just like treating him pretty normally.
Yeah, I do like that no one is weirded out by the fact that this man is small and felt.
Well, maybe they're just like, hey, that guy's like Kermit. This is normal. Because, they meet in Muppet Family Christmas, so obviously they live in the same universe.
But do they see Dave Goals? Or are they like...
No.
Because in the real world,
No.
does Jim Henson exist? And can Uncle Traveling Matt watch Jim Henson on TV with Kermit and go, wow, that's weird. In this world, they have puppets.
No. I think in this world they're real.
Okay.
I think. Jim Henson does exist, I think, though, because Kermit talks about him a lot. He's like their manager or something, it almost seems like, though, right?
Yeah, and when he talks about him, it's often like, there's this guy who was always around. He had his hands in everything. Is kind of the language Kermit will use.
Big break
yes, exactly.
Kind of thing, yeah.
So Jim Henson worked with the Muppets, I think, in their view. And Wembley refers to how he got named Wembley.
Oh yeah.
In this episode, they say that they named him Wembley. They don't say like my parents named me Wembley. They don't say my mom named me Wembley. They say they gave me that name, which is interesting. Like the Fraggle family trees.
What is the hesitance to like? Do they not? They just literally don't have parents. But he has an uncle, so I don't know. Yeah,
but some people just get called uncle.
Yeah.
So like
maybe they just lay all their eggs in a big, like dinosaurs. They'd have like a field where they'd just like lay all their eggs, and then it's like a communal upbringing. You don't even remember which egg was yours anymore at some point.
It's like fish. It's like Nemo.
Like fish. Yeah, they just go and they just squirt all their eggs in the Fraggle pond. And all the male Fraggles come and they squirt in there too. And then they're just like, what's up?
Ugh.
Maybe that's what they do. They hatch from eggs, but they're aquatic eggs.
So they've never seen a hard shell egg. You solved it, Sam.
Explained it.
You solved it.
That's it.
Well, we find out that Wembley was named Wembley because they thought it meant easily makes up his mind.
But they never say what it actually means.
No. But that's what at least they thought it meant. I gotta say, I prefer Richard Hunt's storyteller as opposed to Terry Angus. I just, the storyteller doesn't quite do it for me.
I thought the storyteller was funny because she was real horned up about Uncle Traveling Matt.
Yeah, they definitely hooked up in the past at some point when they come to the storyteller for help, and she teaches them about the cave forgetting things. And, clearly her and Uncle Traveling Matt have had some adventures.
It's like, oh, that Matt, he was so vibrant back in his day.
Yeah, and I mean, thankfully, that story is cut off because the Fraggles are like, this is not what we're here for right now. We need some help. She's like, all right, well, another time I'll regale you with the tales of Storyteller and Matt.
Sex with your uncle. Maybe Matt is so stupid because he went to the Caves of Forgetfulness and it kind of messed him up.
Maybe that's it. Him and the storyteller were hooking up in there too often.
Yeah.
And he just forgot everything he ever knew.
Yeah.
It's like they were hooking up in the late 60s and something, and they're just like, we smoked way too much weed.
We smoked too many of these weird purple flowers.
But Wembley and Boober, while they're forgetting things, decide to sing the song, Remembering Song, Na Na Na, to keep their spirits up. And it gets kind of sad.
It's scary, I think.
Yeah, they like start to get off tempo and forget the lyrics to the song, and you like see them start to unravel. And during this, the plants also are starting to attempt to murder them.
But yeah, listening to that song fall apart was just like, it was funny, but then by the end it was like just genuinely disturbing.
Well, and it's one of those where you don't always expect genuine peril on Fraggle Rock. Like it happens from time to time. But when Gobo, Moki, and Red also get trapped by the plants and have also forgotten things, and you're like, okay, so all 5 Fraggles are screwed. Like,
Yeah.
What are we going to do here? Thankfully, Boober finds the poem that Moki had written and reads the rest of it. And as the plants continue to murder his friends, he figures out that the rest of the poem was all about once you're on your own, you're going to be lonely because you don't have any friends. And he's like, oh, I had friends. That's right. These are my friends. I should save them. He almost tries to make a meal that will kill his friends.
No, yeah.
Because he decides to cook for them. And he's going to make the meal out of laundry. And he was going to use the bleach nut in the meal that he was going to make for them. Thankfully, the bleach nut just wakes him up and restores his memory instantly. And he realizes, oh, okay, this is laundry. This isn't food. Can't feed them that. I'm going to take this bleach nut, though, and save everyone's lives. And then the episode wraps up with Doc and Sprocket agreeing that they're allowed to lean over the line to share items. And as they lean over, they decide to hug. And Doc decides to, you know what? We're going to take this line down because I like you, buddy. But not before I dry my clothes on it. But yeah, I love this episode. I like
me too.
Boober-focused episodes in particular, but I think this episode just overall was very strong.
I gave it 4 stars, which is my peak star rating. I love that it felt like an actual like horror movie. Basically, it had that sense of like creeping terror, and is like a concept that is like genuinely disturbing.
With the Wembley's Egg episode, I was sort of like meh on it, and wasn't necessarily like immediately worried about season 2, but this one, watching this right after, was like, oh, okay, we're fine. This is good.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
January 16th, 1984 was the Trash Heap Doesn't Live Here Anymore episode, written by Jerry Jewell and directed by George Bloomfield. Gobo, Red, and Moki do not appear in this episode. This is a Wembley and Boober joint. And in the words of Rob Thomas, well, it's a hot one. And that's this. The plot of this episode at the beginning is, oh my God, it's so hot. And they're just going to sit there and watch an ice cube melt in the heat. That's what Doc and Sprocket are doing in this episode.
Sprocket does accurately reflect my opinion of science sometimes, where he's just like, come on, man, this is boring.
Well, Doc also like ramps it up way too far.
He really
when
does.
He's trying to teach you a lesson of like, you know, sometimes things go away. They just disappear.
Yes.
Like, watch this ice cube melt. It's like, okay. And then it's like, but watch it turn back into gas and then back into liquid with my beakers and my blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I got the point like 10 minutes ago.
What? Yeah, you're punishing me for something.
Yeah. But down in Fraggle Rock, Wembley is struggling to write a song about having an awful day. But he has a very nice hat on that he apparently is wearing only because he could only think of lines that rhyme with hat.
I loved that. That's such a great excuse. And then he's just like, well, this thing has to happen or else my song's lying. And I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
You have to do all this stuff while I'm singing it so that it's not a lying song.
His art is true. It has to come from a true place. He is a write what you know kind of guy. He's like, I can't write.
I also love how this has nothing to do with any of the story. Basically, like the whole beginning setup is just like nothing.
No, not really. No. He also has like a cupcake / muffin thing sitting next to him while he's writing the song, which also doesn't seem to really mean much until he starts singing the full song later on, and he sings the line about eating a bun. And so it's like, oh, he had a bun near him because he had to write about the bun that he had eaten.
Yeah, you're not a liar.
Not a liar. Actually, that reminds me that we should probably bring this up while we're talking about the great Fraggle Rock songs. The composer of Fraggle Rock, Philip Balsam, just passed away this past week as we're recording this, which is obviously a very sad thing. But there was lots of great tributes to him on Twitter and Instagram and stuff from various Muppet accounts that you can go find. But yeah, that just happened this past week. But getting back to the episode, Pa Gorg is taking a nap in the yard when Ma Gorg calls for him. And as he delightfully refers to her, joy of my life, disturber of my naps.
Very accurate way to describe one's wife.
Whoa! Drag 'em, Sam. We're going to become those guys now. The morning DJs who don't like their wives.
Well, one's partner, even one's like parents or brother or anything like that. Everybody always wants something from you,
That's a real Gobo personality you got there, Sam. Well, this is when we start to see that there's some weirdness in the Gorgs this season, because Ma Gorg she's calling him Huz a lot, like short for husband. She calls him helpmate, which isn't really a thing.
That's okay.
Yeah, but like if your wife was like, hey, helpmate, you'd be like, what does that mean? But yeah, they're saying like methinks and forsooth. And I was like, are they going to talk about, like, is this what they're going to be from now on? Because that's going to be really annoying.
Well, yeah, we don't see them again, right? So we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't get them again in this batch, so we don't know if that's going to be a trait, if this is maybe the new Ma Gorg performer introducing some of this, or what's going on. But I kind of hope they don't constantly do the, like, Old English talking thing.
I'm on the fence about it. I think it could be fun. I think it could set them apart a little bit.
I think if it seems like they're trying to do it to sound smart, that fits the characters. I think if it's just like everything else in their vocabulary is the same, but they start off by saying, forsooth, I'm like, okay, I don't, like, you guys are usually kind of idiots. So I don't see you as fancy talkers.
I could see it as just like their cultural thing, because they have a very, like, that's just the culture that they live in. But we'll see. I bet they'll never do it again. That's my guess.
Well, this is the point at which we see Junior sleepwalking and sleep talking, which you had mentioned in your thing.
Right.
Like, did that come out of nowhere? It kind of does. He just sleepwalks and talks into the scene, and they have to wake him up. And I did put in my notes at that point, will this come up later? Because
that Junior always sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Is he, though?
But Pa decides he wants Junior to build the gazebo, but he wants him to build it right where the trash heap is. And Philo and Gunge are worried. Again, Marjorie's logic is not always the most sound, because her solution to this problem of like, oh, well, I'm going to get dug up, maybe thrown into a river, something bad might happen, whatever. But I bet we can get a Fraggle to be a hero. But down in Fraggle Rock, Wembley is still singing about how happy he is in his hat. But Philo and Gunge interrupt because they come down to Fraggle Rock to ask for help from the Fraggles. But when they go up to see Marjorie the first time, it doesn't seem like Marjorie's where she even used to be for us. They don't cross all the way across the Gorg Garden to get to Marjorie this time. They go out of the well about 5 feet and then like turn towards camera to get to Marjorie, which is not where she was before. So that's a sort of a recon or a retcon thing that we're doing here, which I'm fine with. But it's just interesting that like the first episode that we see a different place for the trash heap is when she's supposed to be being moved from her traditional spot.
Yeah, it's already very different. This episode feels a little uncanny in a way, especially when they're dealing with her.
But it leads to Philo and Gunge. They're going to explore the world looking for Marjorie, because at this point she has been taken away in the wheelbarrow. And they get dirty, grimy little Uncle Traveling Matt Pitt helmets to go explore the world with. Well, thankfully in the process, they end up finding Marjorie, but they're concerned because, as they say, oh no, Marjorie's turned into a fella. Doc, though, back in the world of Doc and Sprocket, this is when he's taken things too far, because he now is evaporating the water and wants to freeze it. And as he's teaching Sprocket in this moment, we get to see Sprocket do a little whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
And I still don't entirely understand why Doc and Sprocket exist.
Especially in one where they're just constantly hanging a lampshade on how boring it is, the thing that they're doing.
Yeah, like let's cut back to them and watch paint dry this time. But back in the exciting world of Fraggle Rock, Marjorie's accent keeps changing. The Fraggles respectfully try to keep up with Marjorie's pronouns throughout this process. Wembley then, of course, remembers in the middle of all this one of Gobo's Uncle Traveling Matt postcards. Because Uncle Traveling Matt tells us the story of the time he saw two men turn into two ladies. Because he saw
Wild.
two businessmen walk into an elevator, the door closed, and when the door opened, two ladies came out.
I like that. And then I like that Traveling Matt is like, I want to change too.
Yeah.
And it runs right into the elevator when that would be so scary.
Yeah, he does not hesitate for a second. He gets in there to try it out. And what happens to him is that the world changes instead because he's taken down to the parking garage. And this one actually helps.
This one does help. Yeah.
Like
I guess because it's like we got to move her.
Well,
What is
Wembley
it?
decides
I
to
don't
move the place, not the person. Like it's basically the whole
Right.
lesson here of like, oh, okay, how do we do this? Like, it's the place.
guess
It's
the
not
thing is,
Marjorie
like-
that's changing. It's where she is that we have to figure out that problem.
Wembley just immediately shows a better grasp on what the elevator does than Traveling Matt does, I suppose.
Yeah, even though if you're reading someone else's account of this device, it'd be weird to
Yeah.
take that leap from it. I would just trust Uncle Traveling Matt like Gobo does.
Too bad we don't have a magic elevator, like a magic changing box. That's what I would say. And then be like, well, I guess we're screwed.
Instead, Wembley decides to ratatouille Junior Gorg while he's sleeping and get up on him and whispers in his ears and convinces him to sleepwalk and dump Marjorie from the wheelbarrow to the other side of the well because the Gorgs just don't go over there, apparently.
They just don't look at that direction. Yeah. I like that Wembley also prefaces this by saying, I have a really stupid idea. So it is a really stupid
Yeah, if you're going to
idea.
ride a Gorg, it seems a little unsafe.
Yeah. And it shouldn't work by any metric that, there's no reason to think it would work. Except if he's seen Ratatouille. So maybe he has seen it. Maybe this takes place in 2005 or whenever that movie came out.
I remember a postcard from Uncle Traveling Matt about a rat that he saw controlling a human.
A documentary he watched. Yeah.
But they do deliver Marjorie to the other side of the well. But she's German now, and then she's Southern, and then...
And she sings them a thank you song. I love this ending where she's singing them this thank you song and keeps changing into different people. And then Boober and Gobo's faces are just like getting more and more like, what?
Well, because
What's wrong with you?
Jerry Nelson is going for it on this performance. He gets to give like
Yeah.
12 different performances, at times just like belting out his biggest rock star voice he can think of.
But they're not jubilant about it at all. They're both just like, oh gosh.
No, yeah, there's like, I guess this
We
works.
can never tell anyone. Yeah.
We do get to see there's behind the boys when they're looking perplexed. There's some distant mountains when they're talking. Like you can sort of see a landscape that like rolls off into the horizon.
The Hollow Earth. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very curious to see if this has any bearing on what Marjorie is going to be like from now on.
Well, and do you think like Marjorie's like they'll just go that way now? Like they don't have to cross the Gorg Garden to get to Marjorie anymore?
That just seems like such a weird thing to do to take away that element, but because I guess they still have to get the
They have
radishes.
to get the radishes, so that'll still be a danger. But yeah, it's
And the Gorgs still know that they're there, so I suppose.
well, as we talked about previously, Marjorie does not show up nearly as often from now on as she did in
Right.
season 1. So
Right. Does she change her accent?
I have
and
no
her language
clue.
and stuff?
I have a feeling she goes back to
Weird.
just being normal from now on.
Me too. This feels like a weird one-off episode.
Yeah.
It's just, and it seems like they're fixing. Like I don't understand what they're fixing exactly. Like why they needed to do this episode, which does feel entirely like just written to fix some problem that they knew that they had that I can't pinpoint.
Well, because we also definitely won't see that gazebo get built ever.
I would love to see the gazebo.
Yeah, Gorg gazebo? Sign me up.
Imagine how big it would be. It would be terrifying.
Oh, yeah, in real life, that'd be like a 40-foot gazebo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of this episode, Doc remembers, I don't like iced tea. So the whole thing about ice cubes doesn't
This
matter.
fucking guy.
So Sprocket has the iced tea instead, which, if that tea had caffeine, Sprocket could die.
Oh no, dogs can't have caffeine.
They should not have caffeine. Their little hearts can't really
Didn't
take
know
it.
that. Sprocket seems like a guy who loves Coke too.
I mean, there's a lot of things Sprocket eats and does that I'm like, that dog's gonna die. But maybe he's just built up an immunity by living with Doc and dealing with all this shit over time.
Man, I have a question I've been thinking about this whole time.
All right.
Do you think Muppets poop?
Yes.
Okay.
Only because of that one scene in the 2011 Muppets when they go to recruit Gonzo and he runs a toilet factory. They all sit on the toilets while they're talking to him. And they're not like, how do I use this thing?
Well, they would know what toilets were.
But sitting on toilets, I feel like they know what they're like. We've seen Elmo sitting on a toilet. That little gif of him
Elmo
doing his little dance.
Yeah, Elmo poops for sure. Just mostly wondering like where Fraggles poop. If there's like toilet caves.
Is there just one cave where everyone goes?
Or a cave that has just a bunch of really handy holes that just drop into an infinite abyss or something.
Oh, we're going to learn about a sad group of doozers at some point. It's like, we build our doozer towers out of the things that fall from the holes.
No.
Our doozer sticks, not as strong.
Nobody wants to eat it.
Taste terrible. But it's what we got. We are taking our treasures from the sky that rain down upon us, and we build up.
Yeah, they build up, and the episode is about them finally getting high enough to poke their head out of the hole. And then they see where the building material's coming from, and they're like, no, this is our lives.
Well, that episode, I didn't dislike it. Again, similar to the Wembley's Egg episode, I liked it enough. The Gorgs kind of put me off of it, just because I didn't love their behavior.
Yeah. It was weird.
Very weird. Overall, very weird.
It makes you think about it makes you think about the show so much and like really like investigate what's going on in this world a little too much to make it to be you're just thinking about it too hard. But I love Jerry Jewell episodes because I love that they all have an undercurrent of just like nihilism basically or just like absurdity to the point of like the annihilation of any meaning, which I love.
It sort of like dares you to ask the questions of like, try to make sense of this world. Good luck. I don't do it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't try either.
Or it's almost like, here, I'm going to give you one more piece of the puzzle to make it make sense and then introduce about 5 more things that make absolutely no sense. And then you're never going to know if I'll address it again or not either. So, fuck you.
The last episode is from January 23rd, 1984, and it is Red's Sea Monster, written by David Young and directed by Terry Maskell. I gotta say up top, Sam, this monster is very cute and I love it.
Yeah, I love him too. I looked up to see if he ever shows up again, and he doesn't really, except like Easter eggs.
Very timely.
Oh, shut up. It's not timely anymore.
It's Easter, Sam.
Not for the people.
Not for the people listening to this like a week later. That's true.
But yeah, she needs this monster, I feel like, in a way.
Maybe we can just accept in our canon that from time to time, Red sneaks off to go talk.
And get advice from this big, wise monster.
Yeah. So Gobo and Wembley go to get the postcard at the beginning of this episode, and Doc is drying out his seaweed, and because there's a fan there that's blowing the seaweed air into the Fraggle Rock hole, Gobo and Wembley are disgusted by the smell of this drying seaweed.
How do you even come up with this idea? Like, this is so
I feel like the
weird.
seaweed trend was probably kicking off in the 80s,
Yeah,
of seaweed
I guess
being a
maybe
big
you're right.
thing to incorporate into your
Yeah.
diet. This is like I feel like this is
Right,
one
I
of the few
forgot
things
there
that
was-
Doc was actually like on the right page. Like he knew what he was doing. Like people actually do eat seaweed.
Maybe that is why it's even weirder, because it's like not weird now. Because it is like,
Right.
yeah, free seaweed.
Well, and like also like people have used seaweed in like things like, you know, sushi and stuff for hundreds of, if not thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
But
Right.
like there was definitely times of like seaweed chips and seaweed things being like trendy. And so I'm wondering if this was either right as that was kicking off and people thought it was odd. Sort of like when people started jogging and people were like, what? You just kind of run
Yeah.
slow for fun? Get out of here.
Uh-huh.
And so I wonder if that's what this was. Is like maybe a few people were into seaweed eating at this time, and people thought it was weird enough to give it to Doc. But it's
Right.
not like
in North.
but it's not an electric
in the
sponge
West.
like he invented in the previous episode, where it was like, yeah, that's weirdo behavior. This is like a thing people do.
He could do it outside though. Still,
We find out the Fraggles have no concept of time, apparently, because they're all counting to see how long Red can stay underwater, and they're counting 1 rock beetle, 2 rock beetle, but all at completely different speeds. Truly chaos. But Gobo gets back and says, I got contaminated in outer space. And everyone thinks he smells awful. And so everyone cares a lot more about that now. And so Red gets mad that Gobo is always got to be the center of attention. And Gobo's like, that's you. Like, you always want to be the center of attention. Look at you right now, trying to make yourself the center of attention, which very not self-aware from Gobo at this moment. But
yeah, I mean, it's a fair point on his part, but he shouldn't be cast in stones like
no,
that.
they both need to accept a little bit of blame here that he does often interrupt shit to make it about him and his uncle.
Yeah.
But in this moment, Red did have all the attention already on her, which he then interrupted. So for her to say, hey, we were doing
and she
something
had some kind
here.
of planned event going on, it seemed like, too.
Yeah.
She was like, she had gotten everyone together for a specific goal.
Yep. But apparently that's too needy for Gobo. And so instead, it's time for him to talk about Uncle Traveling Matt's postcard, where Uncle Traveling Matt bumped into a silly creature that is revealed to be twins. But Uncle Traveling Matt thinks he split her in two by bumping into her.
It made me think of that. Remember that Bud Light commercial where they
Twins!
go, twins! Yeah.
Yep.
When the twins popped up, I thought the same thing.
Oh.
And twins.
Just put Uncle Traveling Matt in that commercial like he's a freaking Spuds McKenzie.
Drinking a big beer. Yeah. Go, 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 go.
Uncle Traveling Matt just singing I think it's actually a Coors Light song of the like,
oh, yeah.
I love football on TV. And twins.
Gross. That's so gross.
Yeah, it's gross from like
We had a real twins fixation in
it's
the
gross from like just a
90s.
misogynistic level of like the beer commercials like and ladies with boobs.
Yeah.
But then it was like they're sisters. That's gross.
Yeah, they're related to each other. We got to find the people who wrote that song and bring them on. Ask them some questions.
The Don Draper of the 90s. Well, getting back to Fraggle Rock. Moki is the only one concerned about Red in this moment. Everyone else is like, she's tough. She can deal with shit. We don't need to worry about Red. Which I kind of like because I think it is the face that Red tries to present to her friends. Is that I'm tough, I don't need your help kind of person. And I think there is that danger of like if you do that with your friends, they might believe you and think like, I don't need to check in. They're my tough friend.
She does kind of sort this one out by herself, though.
Yeah, yes, very true. But I do think there are times where, if they had believed Red right away, like this would have been resolved easily without any hurt.
She said, I saw a sea monster. And then they say, okay, we see a lot of things. There's some crazy stuff in here. A cave tried to eat me. So I completely believe that there's
An
a sea
invisible
monster.
gargoyle tried to kill us all. That sound. I don't deny that there might be a giant sea monster somewhere in Fraggle Rock. And then we cut back to Doc and Sprocket, who Doc apparently can read some Japanese, but not enough to follow a seaweed recipe in his recipe book. This is when Doc barely ties the stories together because he talks about how people could be exaggerating the benefits of seaweed.
Oh, I didn't even put that together.
He stresses the people exaggerate things part of it so much that I was like, oh, I think that's what we're talking about, is that people exaggerate things sometimes. I think that's sort of not a lesson.
I thought it
but
was
it's
just like a sea monster and it was seaweed.
Yeah.
But it also almost feels like the opposite lesson of what the rest of the episode is, right? Or I guess believe people. I don't know.
Right. Seaweed's good for you and sea monsters exist. That's the two lessons of this episode.
Exactly. That was one of my takeaways was like, maybe Bigfoot's real. It's like the lesson of this episode.
I'd like Doc to become a Bigfoot hunter in one episode.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be really cool. Building like a little radar.
He starts believing in
putting cameras
cryptids.
out. And then he finds like footage, but it's just Sprocket. Sprocket kind of looks like Bigfoot.
Yeah, if Sprocket like was up on hind legs, just
like
flopping around. I'd like Uncle Traveling Matt to just see Bigfoot and be like, oh, another silly creature. Big deal.
Hello, how are you? That would actually be a really good one.
Uncle Traveling Matt starts to see things that humans don't get to see. Well, no one believes Red about the sea monster because she says it also has a magic wind weapon, just like Gobo's monster does. And Gobo's like, yeah, right. Copying my story. Nice try.
What a dickhead.
But thankfully, we get to see the giant, cool sea monster puppet, who is the last of the lily creatures, who just comes to this pond to smell lilies.
Kind of like a panda vibe off of this guy. Like maybe they didn't survive because they weren't so good at it, if that's what they're doing.
Yeah, your existence is just coming to smell flowers in this tiny pond. Yeah, I could see why you guys didn't maybe last too long.
Maybe your ecological niche has vanished.
You got to eat some Fraggles from time to time. Learn to eat meat.
Yeah.
Well, even though nobody else wants to go with Red, old Creep Marlin volunteers to go with Red to witness the sea monster. Red does not want to take him, by the way. When he volunteers, she's like, anyone else? Really? I gotta go with Marlin. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. And we learn quite a bit about Marlin in this episode. He has a vision of becoming super popular enough to turn down all of the invitations that he expects to get with his new full and happy life.
That's what something I relate to.
I want to be popular enough and cool enough that everyone wants me to be at their parties, and I will say no.
Exactly. No.
But now at this point, I felt a little bad for Marlin. I was like, oh, he's just very sad and needs some friends. But then Gobo pranks Red with a fake little sea monster fin.
This is so mean.
Very mean. Kind of hoping the lily monster would just eat him. Because that pond must be extremely deep for that monster to just disappear.
Yeah, I guess so.
Also, it must run to somewhere else. Like, it must connect to somewhere if the lily monster can get in and out of the pond.
Yeah, maybe like the ocean. Do they call it a sea monster?
Yeah.
So they know what the sea is.
I guess so. Don't know.
We are going to meet Fraggles at some point.
We are.
So,
Murgles.
Yeah.
But Red decides to move to the pond because, no one believes her and she's going to try to prove that sea monster is real. But when she gets back, this is when Marlin has set up his traps because he has a vision. He sees a large sign that says Marlin's Monster Museum with special shirts with big pictures of me on the front. And I said in my notes, Sam, do we need to make these shirts?
Oh, I think I wrote that down somewhere too.
I think we might need to sell Marlin's Monster Museum shirts.
Marlin's Monster Museum. Okay.
A big creepy drawing of Marlin's face on it. But Red tells Marlin at this point because she is creeped out by Marlin's vision. I made it all up. Nope, sorry, I'm a weirdo, I'm a creep, and she does a creepy laugh at him to scare him off, which totally works. Mm-hmm. You can out-creep the creep, it seems. And the monster and Red have a nice discussion where, he has a nice little compliment where he just says, I like your braids.
They've been making fun of her braids throughout the episode, I think, too, right?
Yeah, Gobo's
perfect braids, they keep calling her.
Yeah, Gobo kind of like makes fun of her for her braids earlier in the episode, and he's like, I like your braids.
Weird.
But it's time for a blues song because they got to sing Sorrow and Shame as Moki sings about sending her, quote, only friend away while she sings in front of every other Fraggle.
All the other Fraggles got to be thinking, what?
It's like,
we were in love last season. What about me?
But Red thankfully comes back and tells everyone, yeah, I actually didn't see a monster. And then we learn that Sprocket apparently was into the seaweed because he ate an entire seaweed pie.
Yeah.
That's the end of that episode. Also, seaweed potentially safe for dogs.
Oh.
Depending on how Doc prepared it, because basically dogs shouldn't just eat seaweed off the beach. Like if Sprocket's just out there combing the beach, he shouldn't just be grabbing seaweed. But if prepared in the right way with the right preservatives and all that, technically
not too much extra salt,
right?
No garlic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So properly prepared seaweed, yeah, sure. I'm thinking it was probably not properly prepared seaweed in that seaweed pie. Yeah, I said earlier I like this episode. I like the resolution of this episode. I like the way it all comes together, and that we don't need to not all the Fraggles don't need to learn the lesson, and they don't all need to see the sea monster to believe Red. Like, we can be okay with the fact that the plot of this episode is Red has a time and figures her shit out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I think I understand why Marlin couldn't catch the sea monster, but I feel like the stakes could have been a little bit higher with Marlin. Have him just be a little tiny bit more evil, which maybe would have been fun. But I thought it was a really good one. Maybe I actually give this one 3.5. I like this one quite a bit.
Well, Sam, that must mean it's time for our Muppet of the Week.
We got to be running out almost, right?
Well, no, this week's Muppet of the Week is Junior Gorg.
Oh.
He's the youngest of the three Gorgs, the son of Ma and Pa, and the, quote, young Gorg, who is constantly trying to set up traps and capture the Fraggles to potentially thump them on the head. Apparently, in a future episode, we will hear Junior say that he is only 473.
He's Baby Yoda.
This raises many questions. One, is he telling the truth? Is he mistaken? And what does this mean for the lifespan of Gorgs, Fraggles, Doozers, etc.?
I pictured Fraggles as living pretty similar lifespans to humans.
But why?
I guess. Well, why not?
What if Gobo is 120?
Well, why would he be?
I mean, if we learn that Junior can be 473 and he's technically like a baby,
But couldn't that be why Junior doesn't bother to learn any of the Fraggles by name? Or
because they come and go too quickly?
Because it's just like a flash of it. It's a blink of an eye to him.
See, in my head now, it's just like the lifespan of all these creatures has extended in my head to like Fraggles live to be 1,000, Doozers are 3,000 years old. Like they're immortal beings. Just raises so many questions. I think, look at Chewbacca. How old does Chewbacca seem to you?
Of 250.
Well, that's because you know. But if you had just seen A New Hope, and you're like, okay, so you got Han and Luke and all these people.
He's like 35, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was going to say.
It does seem like in this stuff, like people never, like you don't age differently in your attitudes or anything like that in these kind of fictional things where people live forever. It's not like you get wiser or anything like that. It's like you're stuck at him being a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Chewbacca, it's not like Chewbacca is wizened in any way. So yeah, I guess I could see your point.
Yeah. Because we don't I think Wookiees live to be like 800 or something like that. So it's like, at a certain point, like you get old grampy porn freak Wookiee in the holiday special.
Yeah.
But he's got to be so many hundreds of years older than
the
Chewbacca.
Things he's seen. That's why he's such a perv. You got to just keep escalating what gets you off.
Where's his origin story? The Itchy Chronicles.
In 35 years when they're like, we're desperate.
We are out of all. We have filled in all the stories. We must tell Itchy's story. Well, getting back to the Gorgs, Junior, like the other Gorg, is performed by two people. One person in the walk-around suit, and the other is doing the voice and controlling the face with a remote control system from offset. Unlike Big Bird, though, the monitor inside the Gorg suits does not show them what the camera sees. They have Gorg vision, which is
cool.
It's a camera in one of the eyeballs.
What the hell?
In the pupil, there is a camera, so the performer can see from the Gorg's point of view.
Whoa.
And so this helps them with the performance to be able to know the height of the Gorg and be able to see from actually 7 feet tall and be able to look at their surroundings better, as opposed to having to play it up for the camera.
Huh. There are times where they're walking between a lot of props and I get a little bit
or a lot of they fall down a lot, which we don't see a lot of full body Muppets just falling on their butts.
Right.
So yeah, apparently Gorg vision was developed, and we'll see more about that later on. There's some documentary footage of Jim showing off the little camera in the eyeball. But Junior debuted in 1983, like all the other Fraggle things, in Fraggle Rock Season 1. Junior has had a few performers through the years. In seasons 1 through 4 of Fraggle Rock, his body was performed by Rob Mills. And then in season 5, Frank Meshkulet took over. Throughout all of Fraggle Rock, though, the initial series, his voice and face were performed by Richard Hunt, which I think is pretty obvious if you've watched a lot of Richard Hunt content up to this point. And then in the newer series, Back to the Rock, his body is performed by puppeteer Ben Durocher, and his voice and face are performed by Dan Garza. As far as we know, Junior's only family is Ma and Pa, because as far as we know, there are no other Gorgs in the world. So,
they're all dead.
Yeah. Did they ever exist? Who knows? If we have creatures that are 1,000 years old.
Somebody wrote books and stuff for them.
That's true. There is Gorg lore. We've seen them reading the books.
Unless they did it and forgot that they did it.
Maybe they wrote them 400 years ago, and then they went to that cave, and they're like, who wrote these books?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's not too much more about Junior Gorg, but we do find out that at some point, he will befriend some plants.
Oh, like on a permanent basis?
And that's a great question. It might just be a one-off in an episode, but in this series, he'll befriend a giant radish that he names Geraldine.
Ah.
And then in Back to the Rock, he'll befriend a plant that he names Junior Junior.
That's really cute. It does seem, I do get the impression that he loves gardening, that he does indeed actually love gardening, and he doesn't just have to do it because his dad makes him.
Well, and in Back to the Rock, he loves Junior Junior. Junior Junior is like a son to him in the way that he takes care of Junior Junior. Speaking of Junior, what you gonna rate Junior, Sam?
I used to hate Junior, but now I love Junior so much. I think he's very funny. I like that he's not as much of a baby anymore. He's just a weird little guy. But how much do I actually like Junior? He's a vital part of the show. And I love Richard Hunt. I'm going to give Junior a 8.
I also said 8.
Wow.
Look at that. We don't agree on much on this show, but we can agree that Junior Gorg is an 8.
But Junior is definitely an 8. No arguing.
Well, before we get out of here, Sam, I got to ask you. It's been a while since we recorded. What non-Muppet stuff did you enjoy in the last couple weeks?
Matt, I went to see Dungeons & Dragons, the movie.
How was it?
Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I had a really fun time with it.
Nice.
It felt like a 90s movie. Yeah, it felt like The Mummy or something. But better than The Mummy. It just has that tone of like goofy, but also when they're doing the action stuff, it's like, oh, that was actually really good. And not in this, I don't know. It's like, I kept seeing people tweeting like, I know it's annoying in that other action movies are full of jokes now, but it's not annoying in this one, I promise. Which, like, a lot of people complain about like Marvel jokes,
right,
which doesn't really bother me that much. But they were right. Like, there's just something about this one that works because it really does feel like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like, you're in this fantasy world, but everybody has like a contemporary point of view, and the jokes are actually like funny. There's an amazing cameo halfway through it that me and Rachel were just like cracking up so hard because it's so ridiculous. Who this person is and what they're playing is so funny that I can't even spoil it because it's just like, wow. And yeah, it just was like very satisfying, and I would love to watch more with this cast or with different people. I just think they like really, it had like a clear goal of what they were trying to do, and it was like more fun than I expected to see Dungeons and Dragons like spells in that way and like parts of the world and the lore and stuff. But yeah, I really liked it. And I watched The Mandalorian, the latest episode with Lizzo and Jack Black, which a lot of people are like, that was so stupid. But I came away from it being like, this is just what every episode of The Mandalorian should have been. He should have been solving mysteries with what's your name?
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, yes. I loved their like Law and Order vibe, their like crime solving thing. I thought was so fun. And I liked seeing all the battle droids and stuff, even though those movies are like, at this point, the prequels are not good, really, but it's still so fun to see stuff from them pop up and be like presented in a respectful way. What did you think of that one?
I liked it, actually. I can see like what maybe the problem people had with it was, because it is definitely weird. And I also think having people like Jack Black, Lizzo, and Christopher Lloyd all show up in Star Wars at the same time. Oh,
I forgot even Christopher Lloyd was in it. Yeah, it was like a stacked episode.
It's just, you don't get celebrities of that caliber showing up in Star Wars that often. And so then to throw 3 into one episode, it just felt like a lot. It was like, it just took me out of the episode.
It felt like a homage to like Columbo, where every other character besides Columbo and Columbo are famous people that you know. I think is maybe what they were kind of going for.
Well, I think it does feel too like a lot of those definitely like mystery of the week kind of shows where it's like, we're never going to see these characters again. Like, that's never happening. These are one-offs. We're never seeing this planet again, whatever. And yeah, it's one of those where, to me, it felt like a Clone Wars episode. And I think the problem is that, it's not a problem, but I think when people come after episodes like this and they're like, that's not Star Wars, it's like, well, it's Star Wars that you haven't watched. Like, there's Clone Wars episodes that are, one, way goofier and worse than that. But there's also a lot of, like, Clone Wars and Rebels things where it's like they show up to a planet and the royalty's like, help, we need your help. There's this problem we can't solve. And they solve it and they fly away. Like, that's a very common thing in those shows. So it didn't surprise me in that way. I just don't know what the hell this show is doing this season.
I don't either. I think one thing is we've moved past the need for Baby Yoda.
Oh,
This episode,
somebody posted a thing that like I don't necessarily agree with. Like there was very strong language about like Mandalorian's fucking stupid kind of thing, but like I didn't agree with that. But they did say that it's curious how Grogu is completely and suspiciously extraneous to the plot, and they said it's convincing them that basically Grogu was not supposed to come back this season, and Disney was like, "Hey, but you should bring back the cute thing." And Jon Favreau was like, "Fine, I'm not going to use him."
Anyway, how about you? What did you watch?
I mean, so much, Sam. When you're sick, you don't do anything else. So I watched WrestleMania. I played some Fortnite. I played some Tunic.
That's the little fox guy, right?
Yeah, it's a very fun little weird game. The whole conceit is that like as you play, things are revealed to you about how to play the game, and then you realize like, oh, now I can go back to that area I couldn't get through now that I know how to do this thing. And it's like there's things that you could do if you knew how to do them way earlier, but because you don't know how to do them until later on in the game, it's just the way it rolls out that mystery is interesting. And it rolls it out in a way of like you have a game manual in the game that looks like an instruction booklet from old 80s video games. And it's like written in like another language that you can't read. And so you're like basically slowly translating the instructions to the game you're playing.
Cool. But you could do, it's not like Zelda where you like get an item that lets you go back.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like sometimes you have to find a stronger weapon to break down a wall kind of thing. But there are skills where it's like, oh, if I had known I could dodge earlier, or I could run and dodge at the same time, it does this thing. Which at the beginning of the game you don't know. All you do is like you just walk around. There's not even any buttons that do anything. You're just like, I guess I just keep walking until I find something. But yeah, that's mostly it. I've been watching Taskmaster's new season. Started watching that show Shrinking on Apple TV Plus. Yeah, watched a lot of stuff this week. But before we go, we need to let you know what we'll be watching next time. Next time, we are moving into February 1984 with the next 4 episodes of Season 2 of Fraggle Rock. And those are the episodes titled Uncle Matt Comes Home, Boober's Dream, Moki and the Minstrels, and All Work and All Play. But we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast, and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. And speaking of our theme song, I realized I've never told anyone on this podcast who Tuna and Cassie are. So I just want to do a little extra shout out at the end here and say that Tuna is a coworker of ours, Complexly, and he has an experimental punk band called Soviet Fourth Grader. So if experimental punk music is a thing that you are into, you can check that out at SovietFourthGrader.com. And Cassie Wilson, the singer of our theme song, is an internet friend of mine that I've known for like 7 or 8 years. But she's also a comedian who you should definitely check out on Instagram because she's very funny. Her Instagram is Cass the Rock Wilson. That's Cass with 2 S's and Wilson with 2 L's. And don't forget to head on over to commitment.com to pick up a Commitment logo enamel pin and check out our Patreon page and all that other stuff. You can email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any questions about the podcast or, links to secret, unseen Muppet things that we can't get our hands on. You can follow this podcast on the internet at Commitment Pod, where we post about what we're watching, where you can watch it, and how you can keep up with the podcast. And you can follow me on the internet at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.